The Empire of Izmir has long been a divided land, ruled by the mages, an elite group of magic users. The lowly commoners, those without magic, are little more than slaves. Izmir's young empress, Savina, wishes equality and prosperity for all. But the evil mage, Profion, has other intentions.
Welcome to Now Playing Podcast's Dungeons & Dragons Movie Retrospective Series.
Adventure, battle, glory beyond your wildest imagination.
Part of our board game movie retrospective series.
You want to play, do you?
Yeah, let's play.
We're gonna need a team.
Team? Who's gonna help us out?
Hosted by Arnie.
The fact that you see good in me makes me believe that there might just be some in there.
Justin.
See that there? I knew that boy had talent.
And Stuart.
You use magic. We are part of it.
But be warned, this episode will contain detailed plot spoilers and strong language.
There might be a loss of distinction between reality and fantasy, and possibly the loss of life in the process.
We hope you enjoy the show.
Let the journey begin.
Today we're discussing Dungeons & Dragons Wrath of the Dragon God. Stuart, are you the Dragon God? You seemed pretty wrathful last week. I can't even imagine how you are this week.
Not happy.
Starring Mark Diamond, Clemency Burton Hill, and Bruce Payne. He's elevated. He was the with, and now he's the and. Directed by Gerry Lively. This is the champion of all that is good, so not this movie. Arnie.
And Stuart.
And this is Justin.
Okay, so, yes, Dungeons & Dragons comes out and bombs everywhere. Everyone hates it, it dies a horrible death, and then Peter Jackson reinvents the fantasy genre, and everyone loves Lord of the Rings for 3 films, crowning it Best Picture in 2004, and 1 year later, SyFy Channel says there's more story to tell. We can bring back Damodar and do a sequel, not a reboot. Not gonna try to do it again better. We're going to make a sequel to that shit from last week.
And we're not even going to bring back its best elements. No Jeremy Irons, no Marlon Wayans.
I thought you were going to say the drug dealers.
Yeah, I think he was too busy doing Little Man at this point to come back to Dungeons & Dragons. Justin Whalen, I don't know what he was doing, but not this. Not even the director from the previous one, who did have another movie come out. It came out in 2005 and got even worse reviews than Dungeons & Dragons.
I didn't see the movie, but I remember that coming out. Donald Sutherland in some kind of 17th century ghost story thing. Yeah, good luck to the man. I ain't trying to catch up on his work. But yeah, you tell me that Marlon Wayans is not here, the director is gone. This is an improvement. I'm more excited for what we have. Gerry Lively is a director whose work I do know, unfortunately. He had a mega hit. You know, horror was kind of dead in the 90s. And then these bad horror movies came out in the early 2000s, and because we hadn't seen a horror movie in a long time, people gave way too much money for them, and Darkness Falls was this giant hit that is so bad. It's about a killer tooth fairy. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Yeah, I saw that, and quickly forgot about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I've seen it, which is shocking because I'm looking at it right now, and with Sherilyn Fenn in it in the 90s, that I missed it is shocking to me.
Well, he's also just a cinematographer. He came from shooting low-grade horror. Hellraiser 3, Arnie. Friday as well.
He did a lot of 3s. He did Hellraiser 3, which I enjoy, Return of the Living Dead 3, which I absolutely love, and Children of the Corn 3, which is a piece of shit.
But what are the better Children of the Corn movies?
So you're saying he's just a movie too soon here?
Mm-hmm.
He should have waited till the next one.
Well, I hate to tell you, but there is a third movie, and he will make it.
Oh.
Yeah, it comes out. We'll talk about that next week, but 7 years pass and they got the director back from part 2 for some reason. Like, remember Lively? He did so good with part 2. We can't do a part 3 without him. But yes, this premiered on the SyFy Channel in 2005. There was no way in hell I was going to watch this. I honestly think I stopped watching anything that SyFy Channel premiered in 2002 when they did the Clive Barker film Saint Sinner, and I was so excited for that movie, and I hadn't learned my lesson with RoboCop Prime Directives that if it was premiering on SyFy, it was shit, and that Clive Barker movie was so bad that I don't think I've watched anything on SyFy since. I watched Battlestar Galactica, and that would be it.
Yeah, this is that period where SyFy hadn't yet accepted who they were and started embracing Sharknado, right? This is when they were still just trying to fool people into falling asleep on the couch with their channel turned on.
I never watched it. Honestly, I never was attracted to their programming. And yeah, we've covered what they did to Dune, and I don't want it. I don't want what SyFy Channel does to science fiction. I think it's abysmal. And I don't have much hope that they're going to give much money to rebooting and remaking and getting this D&D property on better footing than it was last week.
But I don't think they made this film. The thing about SyFy is they'll go to those film markets, and if nobody else is buying your movie to distribute it, they'll write you a small check and premiere you on their network before you go to video.
Sure.
SyFy didn't create this film. SyFy was merely its first chance at escape into the real world before the PG-13 version got out on video. But I can't imagine, even at the paltry budget this film is, they spent $12 million making it, according to Wiki. So I think they had higher hopes than SyFy, but they knew this was never going to be theatrical.
Yeah. And yes, D&D anything, Dungeons & Dragons will put eyes on screens. SyFy was smart to buy it and to play it. And yeah, we'll see. Arnie, give them the plot and we'll see if there's any way it's better than what we had last week.
For the past 100 years, Damodar, again played by Bruce Payne, has been damned to walk the earth undead. That actually seems like a better torture than having to watch this movie. Damodar quests to regain his life and wreak vengeance upon the kingdom of Izmir for causing his demise. He has found the Orb of Falazur, which restored him to life. He now plans to use the power of the orb to get his revenge. The orb was placed in suspended animation 3,000 years ago by a people called the Turanians. They were being attacked by the dragon Falazur, so they trapped the dragon in a cave and put his power in the orb. While the orb was in suspended animation, the dragon Falazur remained asleep. But now that the orb is free, Falazur is starting to awaken, right in the kingdom of Izmir. The waking dragon is found by Lord Beric, the former captain of the king's guard who now handles the king's accounting, and Beric's wife Melora, a wannabe mage. The king knows the orb must be retrieved, and as his guard is away on a mission, he tasks Beric to lead a team of champions to retrieve it. Beric chooses the ferocious warrior Lux, the wise cleric Dorian, powerful elven wizard Ormeline, maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Ormeline, and sneaky Nim the rogue. Under the guidance of Master Mage Oberon, Melora tries a spell to locate the orb. In doing this, she makes contact with Damodar, who puts a death curse on her. Beric must hurry to find the orb and make Damodar remove the curse from his wife. The group of 5 quest for the Pool of Sight, which will reveal Damodar's location. Meanwhile, Melora and the mages try to decipher ancient Terrarian texts to see how they defeated the dragon millennia ago. The old mages don't want to listen to Meloria's new ideas, but she's consistently right in deciphering the Tunarian riddles. On their journey, Beric's group encounter a powerful lich, Clax the Maligned. When Beric and company escape Clax's attack, the lich offers his services to Damodar. Clax uses his shape-shifting magic to infiltrate the castle, kill Oberon, and take his place. In their journeys, Dorian the cleric is killed, but the other 4 eventually make it to Damodar. Barrick gets the orb, but Nim and Ormeline are wounded, and Lux must stay behind to fight the CGI creatures that continue to attack. Returning the orb to the castle, it is then stolen by Klax, who gives it back to Damodar. Finally, the dragon Falazur awakens, and he crushes the orb, and at Damodar's behest, begins to lay siege to Izmir. Barrick goes after Damodar, who now has no orb of power, and Klax has abandoned him, so Damodar tries to flee, but Lux joins in, and Damodar is captured. Barrick forces Damodar to remove the death curse from Melora. Melora was able to use the Tunarian scriptures to conjure a new orb, and once healed, she and the mages are able to defeat the dragon Falazur. And in the aftermath, we see Damodar chained in the kingdom's dungeons, Melora is accepted in the Council of Mages, Nim and Ormeline are healed, and somehow Dorian is back from the dead.
Yes?
All is well as credit roll.
I didn't notice that.
You know, I had to watch the ending 3 times. Wiki told me he's back, and I'm watching this ending 3 times before I say, oh shit, there he is.
How?
Like, blink and you miss him, but Dorian is back, unless this is the afterlife. Like, everybody died, and they're all, like, in purgatory with Dorian, but Dorian is there with Nim and Ormeline having a chat.
I mean, we'll get there because it's in the middle of the movie, but he was a pile of body parts last time we saw him.
Yeah, well, and Damodar, since we're talking about characters that had a bad fate, was not cursed to walk the earth with a little lava baby. This is a retcon.
The lava baby. Oh my god. I honestly thought it was the dancing baby from Ally McBeal, and they just put like a fire skin on it. It has the pot belly. It has the stubby legs. I just needed Ooga Chaka, Ooga Ooga to be playing behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah, I love the way that this begins. We see a map with, something is charring its way across, and it's because this lava baby is leading, I guess they call it a magman. Is that a D&D thing? Probably. It was probably in some manual.
Oh my god. I listened to so many bonus features about the adherence to the manuals and how they had manuals on the set and made sure that they had enough lore that newbies could get the film, but not so much that experienced D&Ders would be bored with them telling us things the D&Ders already know. Yes, if it's in this movie, it's in D&D.
Okay. Well, good inclusion. I like the baby.
This was them going light on the lore babble? Holy cow.
Oh, God. This disc has the worst bonus feature I've ever seen. It is worse than Mazes and Monsters, where we had 2 people who'd never seen the film with 2 people who kind of knew the film. This bonus feature is so lore heavy. It is Wizards of the Coast's special project manager with 2 other people talking about this whole movie, never breaking character from their D&D characters.
Oh, no. Oh,
boy.
God. That sounds bad.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Not even Gary Gygax or something. The special project manager at Wizards of the Coast with 2 others pretending to be an elf and a warrior. So, yeah.
Stop. Nerd alert. Nerd alert.
Oh, man. All I can picture is, have you guys ever seen Wet Hot American Summer? The Michael Showalter movie?
Yeah.
So it's about summer camp shot in 1980s, and one of the group of kids are a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons dorks. And man, there's a scene where one of those kids walks up to the hot girl and talks about like how she's cast a level 7 charm spell on him. And that's all I can picture is going on in this commentary, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to talk about lore. They're really into it. And Wizards of the Coast, obviously, they were the publishers of Dungeons and Dragons at this point. They were involved in the making of this film. This wasn't a sign off on it and let the filmmakers do whatever the hell they want. They're doing the commentary poorly. So, yes, if it's in this movie, it's in a manual of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Okay. But when last we saw Damodar, he was thrown over the side and we assumed splatted on the ground, but is actually been a zombie. Help me out with this. Why is he walking around following the lava baby?
He has been, according to him, this is a retcon, he was cursed by Jeremy Irons that if he died, he would just be undead and in pain for eternity, forced to walk the earth, and Jeremy Irons died before he could take that curse off of him. And so for 100 years, he's been searching for a way to stop being a tortured undead and return to life, and by following this baby and a couple of crocodile-looking people.
Help me out. Yeah, what is going on? What kind of pilgrimage is this?
They take him to the orb, and the orb ends his torture.
They've been looking for the orb of Falazor, and then we get this weird moment even before we get there. They need to cross the ocean, so they put an empty boat out there to get a squid, like to rise up in a bad animation, and then they part the sea. What's going on in this? Honestly, I'm just trying to understand, why do they include the squid? What's that about? This is so random. It's like Mad Libs here.
I do not know. I'm confused myself. I couldn't even understand what they were saying. In my notes, I'm like, they have the orb of phallic something.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And then he's like, what chance does Ishmir have against me now? And then he parts the sea, so he's powerful and he's headed towards Ishmir?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to Stuart's point, like, yeah, are they trying to tell us some backstory here, or is this just interesting visuals over the credits?
Yeah.
Like, it's part and part. Like, some of it's live action, some of it's CGI, some of it's an animated map. It's messy right from Jump Street.
Yeah, for whatever reason, yeah, the credits are a mixture of really stilted animation and this live action voyage. And I think you're just better off probably starting with our hero, such as it were. In the next scene, we are introduced to Sir Barrick, a tax lawyer, because this movie sure knows how to turn on the charm. He's like a tax man. He's literally talking about trading wheat for new sewers and is so bored with his job that he's going to go out in the street and get in a sword fight with his old protege.
I couldn't believe this was the hero and not his protege Valerian there. I thought for sure Valerian would be the one we're following because he's young and he's better at sword fighting and he's noble enough to let his old teacher appear to win even though he could have beheaded the teacher.
Yeah, what better way to establish our boring tax guy is not a great warrior than making his protege admit to him that he let him win? Like, what are we establishing here? This guy's not up for the task at hand?
Yes. So this is really setting me up for a good time. The bad guy we all hated from the last movie is back, and he's coming for something. And then, yes, a civil servant is, I don't know, you can't tell from this fight choreography, the way that it's edited, composed. I can't tell whether he's a good fighter or not. It's like, okay.
No, I can tell you he's a bad fighter because there are so many close-ups on feet.
Yes.
And faces in this fight.
Right.
That it's obvious they don't even have stunt doubles who can do this fighting. They have nothing, and they have to hide it from us with quick cuts and severe close-ups.
Right.
That tell me nothing. I didn't even realize that Valerian's sword came anywhere near this main guy's head until he shows me a bit of a feather he cut off.
Right. We're expected to believe that he's over the hill. He was a once great warrior who now has been put out to pasture, and his student is more or less telling him, stay there. I let you win. I could have taken your head. Don't try to go on no quests. And this is about grumpy old D&D players, right? The old fogey is going to prove to the whippersnapper he's still got it.
And to be honest, he's not even that old. Like, right, if that's the character we're going to go with, you need to find a gristled middle-aged guy to play this character. This guy looks like he's 34.
Yeah, but not leading man material. I hate to be rude, but Mark Diamond is a diamond in the rough, very rough. Not a lot of screen presence. I believe he does taxes. I would take my taxes to him. I would not ask him to defend me in a sword fight.
No, and you're right, Justin. He was 31 when he did this film. He had a small role in Die Another Day, so he's probably the most famous person in this movie.
Wow.
But I think this guy is a black hole of charisma. He is not somebody I want to follow into an adventure. I thought maybe, again, being the king's lord, that he would send people out to do the adventure. I did not realize that this whole movie was going to be a 31-year-old Danny Glover who's too old for this shit going out trying to save the kingdom.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like, Halifax, the king won't sign a law for a sewer if the wheat isn't supplied. I'm trying to grasp what is going on in these early scenes.
This is what I mean. He has a boring life, and so he's supposed to go have fun, and he's married to boot, and what is she doing with the gloves? She's trying to mend gloves. I'm like, this is not D&D, right? Like, this is the opposite of a D&D campaign. This is like the suburban life you try to escape from by playing D&D.
Yeah, like, is that part of, like, creating a character? Is you have to roll for their attributes and, like, glove healing? Okay, I rolled a 3. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I think this is a low-level character. This is one who's just starting the campaign and needs to level up.
Indeed, yes. Melora and Barrick are an overcorrection. And you guys did, but if I thought that the leads of the last movie were too boyish, too modern in their sensibilities, too pandering to a teenage audience, yeah, this is rough. I don't know who wants to watch this futzy married couple go on a mission to find out why 2 people are dead in a cave.
This guy who comes in to get them, I'm like, I think I know that actor. They never say his name. I never can look up who this is. I've checked everybody in the cast. I don't think I know anybody in this cast.
No.
But this guy has a familiar face who comes in and says, an evil descended on his village. 2 men entered a cave and never came out. So they go and find buried dragon nostrils and poisoned air.
Yeah. I think it's like a statue or something. There's a dragon head that I believe is made out of stone, and the nostrils are emitting a poison green gas. She does her little mage trick, and, it's over. Hardly seems to have been worthy of coming all this way, but the really important detail is that he lifts the eyelid, and it's a real dragon. Nobody knew this.
Eye boogers and all. Yeah, it was pretty gross, the goop in his eye and everything. But yeah, just, man, right away, the way this movie is shot, I know it's on video and cheap like that, but man, there are filters to make this look like it's film. Like, you cannot do a fantasy period piece and have everybody lit like they're on a soap opera the entire time. It is just... It is not doing you any favors. No,
Stuart, can we get a shout out for last week's DP compared to this? I mean, it does show what last week's cinematographer brought to the table that this movie is completely missing.
Yeah, this movie looks harsh. It looks like a SyFy Channel movie. It looks like there is nobody trying to make stylish choices. We needed this done yesterday, and we shot it without thinking about composition, without thinking about how it would cut together. The plot, even. It's just kind of a mess. Like, all of a sudden, they're back at their house, and she's decided, help me out with... I heard the words. He saw some writing in the cave that reminded him of Terrarians. Or maybe he read some Terrarian hieroglyphs somewhere that told him there was a dragon in the cave. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he saw the runes and thought it was Terrarian writing. And he's like, we should go to the Council of Mages. And she's like, oh no, I've got books. And we're going to just go to my books.
Yeah. And the ancient version of Adderall, she needs to take a vision spell in order to know what happened to the dragon. What are they trying to investigate? Are they trying to figure out why the dragon's there when the dragon's going to wake up?
No, where the black orb went is what they're investigating.
The black orb?
Yeah, the black orb, right?
Does she know about the black orb yet? She'll go on this vision quest and see the black orb.
She learns about it in her vision with Dramador.
Yeah, he kind of helpfully pops in at some point and tells all the mages what he's doing, like monologuing his evil plan. But, this one's rough, man. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's very clumsily set up. I'm not even sure what the plot of this movie is going to be until finally the mages come in and we're going to get an exposition dump that's going to tell us what happened to Damodar, drive that home, and then that the orb is his and the king needs Barrick to stop this from happening. He sent the king's guard away. They're not going to be back for a few days. So the 5 greatest heroes in the kingdom have to come together. And let me just say, if these are your 5 best in the kingdom, your kingdom is fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And the kingdom is fucked. I mean, look at that kingdom.
Yeah, the last one at least had production value from going to Prague. This one feels like it's being shot on the old set of some Western. It's so sandy and sparse.
No, I mean, Stuart already brought it up last week. This feels like it's shot on the leftover sets of Xena Warrior Princess. I mean, it is barren.
Yeah. Everything feels overexposed and just unpleasant, and you're not going to ever get me to say I missed the look of the movie last week, but I'm not going to say that this is a step in the right direction. I mean, I don't know. She has a vision quest. She knocks over some books. They have gold trim that creates a portal that creates a new book, and everyone's excited that there's a new book, and this book is going to be, half the characters are going to stay behind and read this book and try to use the book to do something, and then the other half are these warriors, these champions, these great whatevers that are going to head off and find the orb that is going to keep the dragon in the mountain, which I thought he already was.
Yeah, but the dragon's waking up.
But why?
Because the orb is no longer in suspended animation. Once Damodar took the orb, that released the sleep spell that was keeping the dragon down.
Okay.
So now that's why the dragon was found, is because it's starting to stir.
Breathing poison gas. Okay.
If you splurge on one thing in this movie, it shouldn't be the dancing lava baby. It should be the actor in the role of the king. He's not in very many scenes. He could probably shoot all of his scenes in 2 days if you were really judicious. But you need somebody, a cameo of some caliber.
Mm-hmm. It could be Burger King, but someone recognizable. Yes.
This is where you bring in Marlon Brando, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would take the king from the Burger King commercials that were airing between this. Remember the big plastic head Burger King from 2005?
I do.
I would take him over this soap opera extra who's going to give the worst motivational speech of, both of you must succeed, but you'll probably both fail. But don't let that discourage you. We must succeed together. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
And I'll be honest with you, I didn't even register him as the king. I thought he was just another mage.
Agreed. Yeah. He looks like somebody that moves the lights around behind the scenes. And they said, hey, King didn't show up. We called Jeremy Irons. He said no. He was doing cocaine in his castle. Couldn't be bothered.
Why can't they just go to Party City and get a birthday crown to put on this guy's head to let us know he's the king?
Agreed. You could not ever tell. And I never even heard his name. You said his name's Halifax? News to me.
Actually, I think Halifax might have been somebody else. I may have misspoken that. I think Halifax was the guy who won't put in the sewer unless the king gives Halifax the wheat.
Whatever. I ain't going to try to parse that out. Let's talk about our 5 that are going on the quest. This is a quest movie, and eventually, the 20-minute mark, we're going to have 5 different types all heading out to try and get this orb. We, of course, have already talked about Barrick. He has picked Lux the Barbarian. The joke is we see like a muscle man drinking in a tavern. We think it's this dude, and no, it's the lady that's going to beat him up.
A nice joke. She's very tall. At least she's filmed to look very tall and very strong. You know, we're going to get no racial diversity in this film, but we're going to get parity of the sexes. 3 men, 2 women on this quest. So I'm good with a muscle, short-tempered woman.
She does have an arc. They do give her a storyline. Apparently her brother, also a barbarian, could never control his rage and had to be put down. That Barrick actually was the one to kill her brother. And there's some concern. I don't know. There's some, I hate to use the word character tension, but for some reason, other people don't trust her. And she's always fighting with Nim the Rogue, who is our thief character. The thieves were the stars last time. Now we just get some dude that goes around and looks through a red gem.
Yeah, you say she has an arc. Really, I was left blue-balled with all of these characters having arcs because there's going to be a scene where Barrick is going to go up to her and be like, I had to do what I had to do to your brother. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be good tension. They're going to have to get past that. She's like, I hold no grudge. Done.
Yeah. No, we're pals. It's all good.
But she will. You'll see her in combat. She gets so worked up. Will she stop? Will she stay on the quest? I mean, they try to do something with her. I'll acknowledge at least that much, that they're trying to give everyone a little something to do. The cleric, well, he's just a red shirt.
Yeah, he's just praying in a church. But Nim, when we meet Nim, I'm not quite sure what he's doing. He's leading a couple other guys to some sort of score.
Mm-hmm.
And then realizes that they're going to double cross him. So he's like, all right, fine. And he lets them, were they trying to steal the sword? Because if that's the case, they were all just going to get burnt anyway, because these guys just get caught on fire for moving the sword.
Yeah, he's supposed to know what traps are, and he can work around them. So he must know that there's a booby trap to this score that they've all come into, and when they don't pay him, usually you'd want to settle up afterwards, right? But they tell him, we're not going to pay you, as they're walking up and pulling a lever, and of course, they're left charred remains.
Which, I will say, full body burns. Better than I expected from this film, which has looked so shitty so far.
Who is this Ormeline? This is the one that is the one I least understand. They say that she's been living on an island. She does some magic trick about being on a boat and making it sail faster or something.
And change locations? Like the background changed to some degree.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell what had been accomplished.
Well, no, because nobody reacted. I didn't understand what she was doing, and neither did anybody else in the shot.
So weird, yes.
Yeah, I think she's just a magic user, and we see her use magic, and that's all it is.
Okay.
And does she have an arc? I don't think she does, right?
She loses an arm and gets it back.
Yes. Maybe that counts. I don't know. But Lux is also causing a problem because she's so beautiful, it makes Melora jealous. She doesn't want her husband to go off with this woman because she doesn't think he'll come back to her. And she's not sure that what she'll look like when he does because she has been cursed. When she had this vision spell to try and find out what the plot of this movie was, a lock of her hair was taken, and now Damodar has made her a zombie in wait. Every spell that she casts, she's closer to being an undead.
Yeah, she's afflicted with glue hands. Like, remember in grade school when you'd put Elmer's glue on your hand and then you'd peel it off like you had skin coming off?
Mm-hmm, sure.
That's the extent of our special effects here.
Mm-hmm, it's very creepy.
It really looked to me like a bad case of dry skin.
Mm-hmm.
A little Neutrogena would have helped her out.
Or maybe it's Orbeline.
Oh, she's looking for that divine magic. She wants to make one of those Magnum babies. She's with all the mages that are trying to figure out what to do. And I don't know why she thinks a lava baby is helpful, but it's trying to tell them that they need to set fire to this magic book. And eventually, I'm going to just jump to the root of it. She'll spend most of this movie rotting and burning books.
Yeah, so there was a line earlier on where they tried to explain there's two different types of magic. There's arcane magic and divine magic.
Mm-hmm, right.
And I'm not sure which is which or which she's practicing, but it seems like her unorthodox approach is against that of the Council of Mages and is going to be exactly what they need. The thing they overlooked was this natural magic because she's looking into these books that are all about the elements, earth, wind, fire.
Oh, God, help me with that. I mean, I can't tell you.
Be the snowflake.
Yeah, said nobody in this century, but okay. Yeah, this is so bizarre, but yeah, those Tyrannian people worshipped acorns or something. A lot is going to be made about the fact that the dragon can be defeated by the four elements, but I will never understand what that is. Let's just stick with the quest, because you can follow that, right? 5 people walking out. They're walking out into the world. Where will they go? They got to 3 different stops. Here's what I hear. We got to find the orb, but to find the orb, we got to go to this pool made by this magic user named Malik, and he consorted with goblins. You needed goblins to make the pool, and so the goblins know where the pool is, and so they're heading to a goblin village to find a pool so they could teleport to the orb.
And on the day of shooting, the goblin mask didn't show up, so we just pretend that they all died.
I tell you what, yeah, they're like, it's a massacre. I'm like, is it? Show me a body. Your definition of massacre, not mine. Exciting things that happen along the way. At one point, Barrick, he's feeling very insecure about being a leader. His student was telling him, you're too old for this shit. And so that kind of comes to be, right? He gets tricked by an illusion spell. He hears the cleric calling for him. He sees them. They were chopping down trees. He thinks he's got to rescue him from under this tree, but it's an illusion made by some character. What did you call him? A lynch?
A lich.
Oof, you tell me. I don't know what this thing is. Some creature crawls out of the tree and will be chasing them for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, some sort of winged dragon man beast that can pull magic. Just real goofy looking rubbery mask is what I remember from him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was a zombie or something. It kind of looked like he was rotting himself. And they're like, you've transgressed into the necropolis of, and I couldn't catch his name. I'm just like, all right, some ugly dude who's going to disintegrate you one limb at a time. And yeah, Klax is too powerful for Ormeline's magic or Nim's knives. And he sends ghosts after them. I love this. He sends wraiths after them. Some of the ghosts are on ghost horseback.
Mm-hmm.
So they're ghost troops riding ghost horses. Meanwhile, there are other troops who don't get ghost horses who run just as fast as the horses.
And such lazy action shots too, right? Because they were all right in the exact same area and they all start running at the same time, but the ghosts are always just 20 feet behind them the entire chase. It's just like, no, they would have caught him by now.
Good thing they built their own boat. I wouldn't get in that thing. I'd rather fight a ghost than get in that boat. But apparently, they think they build a boat. They go sailing to this goblin village that was massacred. Tell me why it was massacred. I think it's because this lich went and talked to Damodor and cut this deal. And he says, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to help you get them. And because Damodor knew where they were going, he killed all the goblins so they wouldn't say where the pool was.
Yeah, but also Damodor is also somewhat toying with them. He knows what they're doing every step of the way, and he's like, let them come.
Yeah, I know. He says that sometimes.
Yeah, how cheap is your movie if you can't get Bruce Payne for more than a couple of days to do all his scenes in a row?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, in the last movie, you couldn't get Jeremy Irons, I get it, so you get Bruce Payne to be your bad guy. Here, you can't even get Bruce Payne, so you get this guy in the undead makeup. They go to this goblin place, they're like, it's a slaughter. I see no bodies. It's deserted, but I don't think anybody's dead.
I see a bed of spinach, and that's about it. I mean, they go into what they figure out is the magic goblin's cabin, I guess, to find some clues.
Yes, some shaman goblin. I mean, again, it's embarrassing just to say these words, but there's a shaman goblin with a bed of leaves, and the thief looks under it and knows it's a trap and rigs the whole thing up so that they're not hurt. I did smile when he mentions having the stomach acid of a purple worm. I do remember putting purple worms in my campaign.
Yeah, because they can eat through anything.
Mm-hmm.
Except for maybe a glass bottle or a purple worm's stomach, apparently. I don't...
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's impenetrable.
But yeah, I guess what we're really saying is there's no fun to this quest. The step-by-step, hard to follow, not sure what's going on, and it's just not a good time.
No, I really hoped for this movie. I knew the beginning sucked when they were finding the dragon and burning the book and making the one book into the bigger book. But when they got the crew together and it became a road trip movie, I'm like, 5 interesting characters going interesting places. I'm down for that movie. Except they didn't give me any interesting characters and they're not going to any interesting places.
Yeah, they're putting a lot on the fact that the thief and the barbarian don't like each other, but by this point, because the thief saves the barbarian's life, she loans him a knife, they become kind of friends. I don't know that it goes beyond that, but there's some character change that's happening between them. The elf woman, I never know what she's doing.
She's there because she has 2 magic spells. She can transport them once and then transport them one other time, and that's it. She can't do it any more than that.
And they're going to kill the other magic user, so they got to have somebody with magic.
Yeah, she can teleport them to the orb, but she has to know where the orb is first. And she can teleport them back to the kingdom from the orb. She never thought maybe we'd want one more teleportation along the way. She brought the 2 that were planned for and not a single teleportation spell more. Because what's going to happen is in this goblin village, they find a map to Malik's vault. But then, like, icicles form in the hut. This is all a trap for an ice dragon to appear. And let me just say, this ice dragon looks bad, but it's no worse than last week's movie. It's as bad as last week's movie, but it is not worse for having less than half the money and premiering on SyFy. You're not doing any worse than Solomon did last week.
I mean, I think that's speaking more towards just the advancements and how, special effects have become cheaper and more accessible by this point, even just 5 years later.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, but I'm just saying, as bad as this looks, it's par for the course for this franchise.
Yeah.
And Dorian tries a spell on the dragon, but this is where Dorian dies. And I had to wonder, is my Blu-ray censored? Or did they just not have the money to show the dragon eating Dorian? Because the dragon dips his head out of frame. We never see Dorian actually get eaten, which could have been, not on this budget, but I imagine it might have looked cool.
Did he get eaten?
We see his legs go into his mouth. He's half in the dragon's mouth when we see him.
I didn't notice that. Really? I thought he got frozen solid, right? He got a blast of the freeze breath, and then somebody else blew up the dragon, and there were limbs all over the place. I didn't know whether he blew up too.
Yep.
No, he does get eaten. We see the legs, but it feels like we should have seen him getting bit in half or something like that when the dragon is off frame.
Right.
It was the extent of the budget, is what we're saying, is that's about all they could do. They couldn't animate a convincing-looking character, but legs are doable.
But he, in his dying words, before any of this happened, he was telling Beric that he was a good leader, to trust his instincts, and that there's something that could be weaponized that's greater than steel and magic, setting up, I guess, this ending about where they're going with the acorns. Somebody explained to me how acorns...
Oh, I do not get the acorns. I really don't. They're like, there's acorns in the end of the movie, and she's seeing acorns in the middle of the movie, and I'm like, these acorns, you're going to plant the acorns and grow a defense or something?
I don't know.
I do not understand half of what these majors are doing. You know what? If I played D&D and read those rule books, I bet it makes sense. I honestly think this is one of those cases where they're like, well, we can't over-explain the lore, so we're just going to leave us completely in the dark as to what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching a cult, like it makes you not want to play the game. Like, if you guys understand this, I don't want to be in your circle. No, thank you. I'm happy to be ignorant because no buy-in on this whole thing. But yes, there is an acorn god or something about to show up. But let's just get to it. So we got to get to the pool, right? They end up following the map to some tomb of Malik, and there's a big fight with some bandits or something. And this is where that barbarian woman is showing aggression. She almost can't leave the fight, but they end up making their way downstairs. Flowers.
And nobody chases them down the stairs. Like,
yeah.
They're being attacked above ground. There's some word puzzle where they realize, like, somebody's name is misspelled, so they're able to slide the tomb.
Push letters in, and don't even get me started.
Yeah.
You guys, this tomb, we're in a fantasy land, and they're using, like, the most modern sans serif font on this monument, right? Like, at least use some sort of medieval-looking font for this, right?
Runes. Yeah, runes, people.
Yes.
Oh, but as compared to the font that literally opened this film was indecipherable. I was trying to read the words on, like, the title cards and couldn't.
Sure, use that here. Use that on this ancient tomb.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they open this and it reveals a staircase that goes underground. Made me think of like Legend of Zelda. Remember there were always those staircases to take you underground?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lux won't run down there, so Ormeline has to knock her down to like get her out of the battle fugue. Finally, she's running to the stairs and being chased by a horde of enemies. They go down the stairs, we're fine. There's some weird cut too. When they get to the bottom of those stairs, everybody is jumping into frame.
Jumping off of a chair out of frame.
Like, is part of the staircase missing? I don't know why everybody is jumping into the frame.
From like a 2-foot box, they're jumping into frame. It was so comical. And each one of them does it too. I mean, so it's just, you notice it and then it's like, oh, yep, and yep.
And I'm like, if you're not going to have the money to film the missing stair scene or whatever it is, just cut to them in the hallway then. Right. Don't wait and just have this long scene of them all jumping.
But this is their big centerpiece, right? Like, this is their big fun maze scene from last week, right? They have to figure out some puzzles and find loose bricks to open up doors and figure out how to get across this electric field.
Yeah, there's a lighted disco floor that the only way to know how to walk across it backwards is looking in some mirror that's hidden. And this is where we get Nim, the thief. He'd been doing so well, but he is injured at this point. So they're slowly picking him off, right? Cleric's gone, the thief is hobbled, and now the Ormeline is going to try to use the pool that we've already been told has flaws that send people into walls. Like Malik died trying to teleport and got put into a wall, and sure enough, when they get to the place where the orb is, her hand's stuck in the wall.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous. And it was so funny because when Nim is climbing up that wall to even reveal the mirror, you can see the set bend. Like he's pushing the rock and the rock moves where it shouldn't. It's not like he's moving a rock that should move. He's just hitting the set. And yes, when they teleport in, they're finally at Damodor. There's finally the showdown. Ormeline is stuck and Nim, they're carrying him around. Again, Ormeline only brought the one teleportation spell there and one home, so Nim is like baggage now, and a bone birdcage comes down to trap Barrick and Lux, and it's over, except it's not. It is really quick, and like Barrick cuts off Damodor's arm without any trouble, grabs the orb, and they teleport back home. The only cool thing is he has to like perfectly time cutting off Ormeline's arm so she can teleport with them.
Yeah, it's a strange character development. Barrick, the old tax guy, was doubting his skills as a swordsman. This is the redemption arc. I just chop off people's hands now. I chop off Damodor's hand to get the orb, and I chop off the wizard elf's hand so that she could go home with us. This is the coolest thing he'll do, right? This is it. This is the hero's moment.
Yeah.
Okay, strange.
Yeah, he kind of gets sidelined after this, right? He delivers his orb.
For sure. Yeah, he gets on horseback and leaves the barbarian to fight Damodor. Damodor gets a new arm and soon is sending winged creatures after them.
Yeah, whatever those are. There's so many CGI creatures. There've been some dropping from ceilings, and now there's these goblin-looking things going after them. And I mean, it's funny to me that he has Ormeline teleport them basically to a hospital where they could just leave Ormeline and Nim, and then Lux just is like, you go on, I'll fight all these things off. And because they have no money, there's really nobody stopping him from just going back to the kingdom.
It's feeling like Dirty Dozen. I wasn't expecting this. It was so weird when Martin and Wayans got killed last week, but this one is like picking them off. It's feeling like nobody's going to be left from this team. They're all going to die on this quest. And sure enough, yeah, Barrick seems to be the only one left alive. Even the barbarian woman looks like she got overpowered. We think she's dead, and he goes riding back to the castle with the orb, gives it to his wife, and thinks everything's fine. And then, again, you tell me, I've heard a lot of lip service about earth, wind, fire, water, but I don't even see water being used. I don't know why you put on an acorn mask. I don't know what exploded that made everyone dead for miles.
Mm-mm.
Well, they burned the book, which created a, mini tornado of water.
Yes. That's water?
I think that it was water in the tornado.
Okay.
That's wind. Come on. Yes.
Killing two birds.
Yes. The fire and the wind and the acorn is earth. Yeah, acorn.
Well, no, I thought it dug into the earth. It dug a hole that revealed the chasm underneath, which is where more Terrarian magic is. Blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the interesting part. Her master was taking a bath, which with some very gray chest hairs there I didn't need to see today. And he gets killed in the tub by Clax. And so now Clax is undercover there, pretending to help them, being Oberon. And yeah, they put the orb in the wall underground. And yeah, it creates a fireball outside of the room that kills everybody except for Melora and Barrick were in the room. And Oberon, I guess because he's really Clax, just grabs the orb and runs like hell.
I don't know what's happening anymore. I'm defeated in that way of you're saying, and you telling what happened is not helping. That's just a bunch of nonsense words you just said. Nothing that you just said clarifies the absolute confusion of this climax, which again, they had to get the orb, which they did to stop the dragon from waking up, which it hasn't. And the dragon burst out. Why?
Because the orb was not put back into suspension. The orb is a thing keeping the dragon in slumber.
Only when it's in suspension.
It wasn't in suspension. It was in some monkey's paw in some cave where we're never going to be again.
It was just floating in the air there in that suspended animation.
That was floating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was being held by a ornate hand.
And they have until the first full moon to return it to, yeah.
Okay, you know what? Whatever y'all say. That's fine. That's great. So the dragon's out. Climax is here. Dragon smashes orb. Dragon has his power back. Damodor's happy to be his bitch. He'll be his little servant. And we get a big old fight with Dragon coming. Is he a dragon god? Is that the title?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's beyond just a regular dragon attacking that they might be able to repel with the King's Guard, who has gotten home. Valerian is back now.
Mm-hmm.
But because this is a dragon god, they're screwed.
But because Melora figured out something about what that cleric was saying is faith is the weapon not made of steel and magic, she will prove her faith by creating a acorn shower of light and transforming into some new kind of magic, right? That was her arc, right? She wanted to learn a new kind of magic. She's now the white witch with the white orb.
Yeah, it goes back to that line about arcane and whatever other type of magic. She's now the white witch of this magic. Yes.
It was divine. Yeah, she practiced arcane magic, and this is the divine magic she's always wanted to practice. And she's now on the roof shooting at dragons. Although that doesn't stop it, right? What does stop the dragon? It just gets dragged into the water by a bunch of mages, right?
So the dragon's attacking, the mages are trying to stop it, and Melora is able to create a new orb because she knew and was worshipping the Terrarian god properly. So she gets a new orb, but she's dying. She's the only one who could stop the dragon, but she's dying. So Barrick has to go after Damodor, and Damodor tells Clax, go kill him, and Clax is like, nah, I'm outie. And Clax just leaves. No punishment for Clax.
That was so strange. I thought for sure he'd come back. I thought he was just playing with him and that he was going to attack. That creature really just drops out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we now get a very cheap horse race, literally, as Damodor is running away on a horse and Barrick is giving chase. And Damodor is defeated by a scared horse because Lux comes out of nowhere and scares Damodor's horse, and he falls off the horse, and now he's defeated.
This is my favorite part. This is my favorite scene. Because this is where, like, Lux is like, oh, I'm so barbarianish, I'm gonna stab him, I'm gonna kill him. And Barrick is like, no, don't kill him, because if you kill him, you'll kill my wife as well. Not sure I follow that, but okay, we'll go with those of the rules. And she's like, grr, I'm a barbarian. Give me the knife, don't kill him. She finally gives him the knife, and what does he do? He holds the knife up to Damador and says, I'm gonna kill you. I'm like, oh, forehead slap. Who wrote this?
So he gets Damador to reverse the spell. So now Melora is able to pray to the high god of nature who controls all the elements and brings the dragon's soul back into the orb, thus defeating the dragon. Now, I don't know where the dragon's body goes. Does it just go back under the mountain? I don't think we see it.
No, it sinks into the lake and then gets sucked under rocks at the bottom of the lake in a very clunky CGI scene.
Yeah.
Okay, I repressed that. I just watched this yesterday and I forgot.
Yeah, it's in the water. And again, I think there was air, there's rocks, there's water. I don't know that there was fire, but whatever. The 4 elements, or at least 3 of them, have defeated the dragon. And Melora is healthy because Barrick got the charm away. He got the lock of his wife's hair and destroyed it. So she's no longer turning into an undead gloop monster.
Mm-hmm. And all of this is just against really, really poor CGI, right? Like, we have a bunch of fireballs, we have a bunch of people running around, but the apex of this scene is them standing on a tower that is 100% CGI. The tower is CGI, the sky is CGI, everybody is blue screened to oblivion. I mean, if there is any sense of reality to this movie up to this point, it has all just been thrown out the window for this conclusion.
There hasn't been, though, so we lose nothing.
Yeah, agreed. But there is a tease, and I guess there is another movie. We get an epilogue of montage in which, basically people are rebuilding. We see all of the characters. You tell me Dorian the cleric is alive and helping, too. I see all the other ones trying to help clear up the debris of the destruction.
Dorian isn't helping. He actually goes up and interrupts Omeline and Nim, who are working together doing some cleaning. And really, you only see Dorian from the back, except he turns, and I had to freeze frame it. I'm like, does he have the forehead tats? Okay, he does have the forehead tats, but I had to freeze frame to see at what, according to Wikipedia, his return means is that Dorian is implied to have both died and gone to the outer planes. I don't know what that means, but somebody who updated Wiki does.
He's Obi-Wan.
And they obviously play the game.
No one played cleric. She never wanted to be the cleric.
Tell that to Tom Hanks. He was pious.
Yeah.
And most importantly, Damador is alive to stalk us again in the sequel.
Thank God I looked at Bruce Payne's filmography. He is not returning. Maybe Damador is, but Bruce Payne has better things to do?
He's had enough.
Probably, I would think.
So Justin, Stuart, do you recommend Dungeons & Dragons, Wrath of the Dragon God? Justin.
The first time out with this series, I was able to find some joy in, let's call it the naivete of a director who ended up making schlock, but there was some real love behind it, right? Like, I feel like the people on that movie loved the look and feel and lore of Dungeons and Dragons, and, their technical know-how and the acting wasn't great. Well, fast forward 5 years later and strip any of that away, and all you're left with is somebody who's obsessed with the lore and the lore babble, and they suck all the joy out of whatever is here to be enjoyed. This movie is a slog. It feels like they watched Lord of the Rings director's cut and said, yeah, we can do that, but we don't have nearly as much story, so we're just gonna walk around aimlessly and make it feel like it's that long. Seriously, all the actors in this movie, you can tell most of them, this is their big shot, right? Like, they all want to be here. It's not like they don't understand the objective, but it just does not feel right at all. I got lost in the lore babble so many times, and then the parts of this movie that were supposed to be fun, you're going on a quest, you should be fighting dragons and orcs and stuff, they don't do it. We get to one place that's a little bit of a mystery box, and it's solved super quickly, and it looks cheap, and by the time this movie is at its crescendo and ending, I could care less who's standing at the end of it. It just is really that hard to watch. So yeah, if this type of thing is your bag and you want to get into this type of thing, hey, Max has a series called House of Dragon, right? Like more Game of Thrones. That's very well done in this realm. Go watch that and leave this on SyFy's server and never bring it up again. This was not worth even sitting through it. So yeah, this one is a big fat red arrow for me.
Stuart.
Yeah, it's very representational of SyFy Channel, right? I mean, I do think of SyFy Channel taking things that you might like. Again, I think about what it did to Dune and just making it so that it's so hard to even turn your eyes to look at the screen. The bleached out colors, the ugly people doing ugly things with no sense of fun, just the chore of it all. Again, the casting a spell of sleep, perhaps a spell of forgetting. I will say that I probably won't be able to remember this movie in 3 days. So in some ways, it's not so terrible that it will leave lasting trauma, but it is really, really, really hard to pay attention to. I dare you to try and watch this movie without turning to your phone or taking long breaks. I know I took at least 5 to get through this thing. It's only an hour and 40 minutes, but it felt like 5 years. And I could only hope that the next movie is short, right? Because it's not going to be any better.
I'll agree with you, Stuart. Around the time they got into the backwards walking room, I started looking up to see what else the rest of the cast had done, and maybe like 5 or 7 minutes passed, and I looked up, I'm like, crap, whose arm got cut off? I didn't realize it was Damodor's. I had to back it up. I got so disinterested in this film, I was more interested in people's filmographies than what was going on screen. I mean, Dungeons & Dragons Wrath of the Dragon God is not a rousing game of D&D.
No.
It's a slogging dungeon crawl with none of the fun or excitement or creativity that makes the tabletop game legendary. The biggest problem? A bloated party with zero depth. Why send 5 adventurers on a quest if only one of them is going to be an actual character and the rest are just bodies that bring very little skill? And our main hero is so generic. His mage wife is given way too much time with little to do. Then we have her mentor, 5 forgettable tagalongs, Damodor, Clax. They're all cluttering up the screen and not a single one of them is compelling. It's like watching NPCs recite flavor text with the enthusiasm of a low-level bard forced into an unpaid performance. Production-wise, this is decent for a sci-fi film. It's a low bar, but still. Compared to the Blu-ray of the first film, I thought the video quality was surprisingly good. There was not digital noise. It looked sharper than the transfer of the D&D 2000 film. And the CG effects are at least on par and sometimes slightly better than that theatrical venture. And I'll give credit where it's due, and there's very little due. The practical fire effects are impressive. The full body burns are probably the most convincing thing in this entire film, and it made me want to set myself on fire instead of finish the movie. I mean, the acting in this is dire. It's wooden, it's lifeless, it is utterly incapable of selling the stakes. The cast turns what should be an epic fantasy into a glorified LARPing session with zero charisma. Even Damodor, back from the first film, here he's just moody. He was a lame henchman in the last film, and now elevated to big bad status, he's insufficient. And more, it seems that Bruce Payne couldn't spend any more time on Wrath of the Dragon God than Jeremy Irons spent on the first film. If you can't afford Bruce Payne, your goose is surely and thoroughly cooked. So while the dragons may have wrath, this movie inspires nothing but boredom. The dice have spoken. Not recommend.
Worst board game movie yet, right?
Easily.
Oh, by a lot.
Maybe worse than most video game movies.
I would rather watch Battleship 5 times than watch this again once. At least I can rock out to some AC/DC with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one really is Uwe Bollish. It's like right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you conjured Uwe Boll's name last week, and I was really feeling it this week.
Yeah.
Seriously, I would have to really think hard whether this is worse or one of those In the Name of the King sequels is worse.
I was thinking about it a lot, and I know it has Dolph Lundgren, but I still think In the Name of the King's better. In the meantime, we're going to take a break. Thankfully, we need to take a break before we get to the third and last of these cheapy Dungeons and Dragons movies, and we're going to go do a video game review. This Friday, a Minecraft film has opened up, and we're going to cover it.
Yep, I've never played Minecraft, but you have, so I'm looking forward to seeing a bunch of bricks. I mean, from what I can tell, it's just basically like Duplo, right? You just build stuff with square bricks?
Yeah.
The game could be that way, but there are zombies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to expect a Lego type of movie or an emoji type of movie here, but like it's going to be somewhere in that range.
Better than Wrath of the Dragon God. That's all it has to be.
But it has Jack Black, so will it be? It's iffy.
Yes.
And in between, if you want even more Now Playing reviews, our gold level hacker movie retrospective series continues this Friday with John Travolta and Hugh Jackman in Swordfish.
Yeah, we're talking about hacking as it was in the new century. I remember this one took a lot of heat. It came out right around 9/11, and people thought, I just remember reading hateful things about how irresponsible. It's almost like they bombed the towers with this movie. Maybe it's up for a re-evaluation. I know the thing was hated in its day, but perhaps we now have, with decades of perspective, a way of appreciating what it has to offer hacking movies, right?
I saw it in theaters and never wanted to go back, but here we are.
Never wanted to go back, really? Wow. I figured you would like this.
I have very few memories of it.
I can think of 2 reasons why you would like this.
Well, yes, that's the 2 reasons that got me in theaters. Hugh Jackman and John Travolta, right?
Yes.
So that will be available this Friday. Thank you for listening to Now Playing. Thank you for supporting our show. Justin Stuart, thank you for joining me. And now let's pick up the pieces of this mess of a movie and go home.
And so, we played the game again, for one last time. It didn't matter that there were no maps, or dice, or no monsters. Pardew saw the monsters. We did not. We saw nothing but the death of hope, and the loss of our friend. And so we played the game until the sun began to set, and all the monsters were dead.
Thank you for listening to this Now Playing Podcast movie review.
I've enjoyed our little chat, but now it's your time to die.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
A wonderful performance.
Help us spread the word about this show by leaving a 5-star review on Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, or your podcast store of choice.
This I give you now, trusting that you'll protect it with your very life.
Want more reviews like this one? In the archives section of NowPlayingPodcast.com, you'll find more than 1,000 in-depth movie reviews from our panel of hosts.
Welcome to the Adventurer's Vault.
On our site, you can hear reviews for every installment in the world's biggest film franchises, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, James Bond, Middle-earth, Jurassic Park, Fast and Furious, and Transformers.
Are you listening to me? All I do is listen.
Plus, we have individual movie reviews, such as Titanic, E.T., Inception, Big Hero 6, Ready Player One, Pulp Fiction, Apocalypse Now, Doctor Strangelove, and hundreds more.
Has anyone ever finished it before?
No. They all died trying.
And come back to NowPlayingPodcast.com next Tuesday for another all-new movie review podcast.
Nothing can keep me from it.
Support from listeners like you keeps Now Playing Podcast on the air.
Give me some food and I'll give you a prize.
You can donate directly by tapping the support button at NowPlayingPodcast.com.
We are you gotta get. And right about now,
We gotta get paid.
And you can join our crowdfunding campaign for early access to new episodes, exclusive reviews, and bonus reviews available for a one-time contribution.
This isn't about gold, it's about saving our empire.
Need more Now Playing? Subscribe to our In Focus weekly newsletter for exclusive digital download giveaways, celebrity interviews, behind-the-scenes insights, and more. Sign up through the subscribe page on our website and get it delivered to your inbox every Friday.
If you wish to join the others in death, insert your name below and I will notify your kin.
You can also compare notes with us on Letterboxd. Go to letterboxd.com/nowplaying.
You may take my hand, and I will lead you. I'll tell you right now, I'm not taking his hand.
And follow Now Playing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel.
Follow me, I know the way.
Now Playing Podcast is produced by Arnie Carvalho.
Giving birth to this nightmare is my most coveted dream.
Associate produced by Jason Latham.
I'm a god and a lord. I am really doing all right.
Now Playing is edited by Santiago and Arnie.
So we're the cleaning crew.
Cleanup crew's more like it.
Now Playing credits read by Brock.
You will speak only when spoken to.
Speak when spoken to, my ass.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the views of Venganza Media Incorporated.
A lot of dwarves are afraid to show their true feelings. I'm not, okay?
Venganza Media Incorporated is not affiliated with, and this podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by any entity that created the film analyzed herein.
You may have forsworn your oath, but your oath hasn't forsworn you. Just because that sentence is symmetrical doesn't make it not nonsense.
All movie clips and music included in this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. They are included here for the purpose of review and no infringement is intended.
Yeah, well, have you ever heard of honor amongst thieves? We might live outside the law, but we respect each other.
Now Playing Podcast is an exclusive trademark of and may not be used without the express written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated.
The dark will never triumph, as long as the light inside me prevails.
Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2025, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. All rights reserved.
The most frightening monsters are the ones that exist in our minds.
Perlamon Tergatis.
The spell. So now...
Okay.
I keep wanting to call her Melania. So now, Melora...
Perlamon Tergatis.